Today we are making Swash by Needle and Anchor. This was a really fun pattern to make. I did make some mistakes, but I have left them in and showed you how to fix them. My shoulder's not 100%. I think I've slept it on a funny, so it's a bit distracting. But the bags still come out awesome. This is the size small, so the size large has 2 of these pockets. But I've just done the small with the pockets on both sides. So if you would like to see how I make this, stay tuned. Alrighty then, let's get started. So I've got all the hardware in my bowl, and I'm using my beautiful fun zippers. So you can get these from Bent Needle, and these were a gift from Yolanda. So thank you, because I absolutely love them. And I'm going to start with my strap, because that's where I always like to start, so that I don't get joins from my bobbin. So I'm just going to put some double-sided tape down the center. Oops. Well, today's going to be one of those days. Awesome. Good to know. Everything's going to fall off my table today, I can tell. Alright, so what I'm actually going to do, I need to chop off the first little bit where the perforation holes are. So, I'm going to do that to both ends. I actually need to cut it shorter because I forgot to make it the length of the pattern. So now that I've done that, this should go much smoother. Alright, so I'm just going to peel off a section at a time. And I'm going to move this tub so it's not in your view. And I'm just going to fold over both sides onto that tape. Now, if you can't eyeball the center, you just draw a line first and then put the sticky tape or double-sided tape over the line. So don't stress if you can't just eyeball it like I do. I've literally made probably 1,000 straps now. I also had a minor incident when I was rotary cutting this, so I've just got like a shabby little bit here. So before I go any further, I'm just going to trim it off. See? All fixed. Now, if you see me kind of acting a little bit funny in this video, I've actually hurt my shoulder overnight. I think I slept on it funny, so I can't fully rotate it. So I might do some weird actions, just ignore me. Might have to go see like a masseuse or chiropractor or something. I think everything's just a little bit too tight at the moment. See, like that. That was a weird whatever. Oh. So we're nearly to the end. Also, because this bag has what I consider delicate features, I'm actually using the skinnier of the square rings because I want it to be more delicate. That's just my choice. Alrighty. Home stretch. Then I've also got, and I prepped it in the video, the strap. So it's super long, but now that I think about it, I probably didn't need to join it. But we'll see. So I'm going to start with the fold of the vinyl right sides up. And then I'm going to put this right sides down and crank my stitch length all the way up to 4. Because I would like it decorative because I've picked purple. So this was a conscious choice. And then I'm just going to do 2 holes and then go back through the first to lock those stitches in. And then needle down and pivot. And then I'm just going to manually with my hands line this up in the center. Now, if you don't think that this is something you want to do, that's totally fine. You just grab some double-sided tape and stick it on the join and then place your fabric along that way, and then you can just sew. So your sewing will be quicker than mine, but this is ultimately quicker because I don't have to sticky tape. So I'm just working my way down slowly. I'm not in a rush for this because I want to line it up so it looks good. And my stitches are 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric part. So I'm not making this strap adjustable. You could definitely do that. You just need to make the strap longer. So now I'm getting close to the end. I'm going to chop off the excess, which if I hadn't joined it, that's another whole strap there. Because I was just, I don't know, a little bit in autopilot yesterday. I forgot it was a public holiday and literally took my child to daycare and wondered why it was shut. It took me like a good solid minute to realise that it was Melbourne Cup and a public holiday. Whoops. Now we're going to turn back. I'm just tucking in. When you've got a stray thread, don't pull it because it can start a whole bunch of like fraying. So you're better off to just pull it outwards and then snip it off. I'm not going too fast because I can feel that the other side keeps tucking out. There we go. And then pull that out and snip that off. So that is now my strap done. So it's got... I tried to get as many heads as I could onto the strap just to make it look cool. So I did. That's right. Okay, so let's grab one of our outside funky pieces. Now I've interfaced this with my extra heavy iron-on fusible. Non-woven, sorry. Fusible, non-woven, extra heavy. I need to rename it because that's a mouthful. And we're also going to need... So for this one side, this is the wrong piece. So you should have two of these mirrored. So we need to make sure that we're grabbing the right side for the right piece. And then we're also going to need some of the linings. So we need one of these, but not that one. So I need that one, and then one of the back pieces. That one. So the way that I can tell that is this funky little bit here. You want one lining that's going to join it so that right sides are together and it's the same shape. And then you need a back piece that's going to line up like that. So that's how I know which ones I need. Now I don't have any fusible web here and I can't get it locally. So we're going to have to not use fusible web. Instead I'm going to have to iron it. So let's move to the ironing board actually so I can show you that. Right, so I've brought both over so I can do it at the same time. My iron's on and I will be using steam for this. I've also got my scissors and an erasable pen. So the idea is we need to fold this bit under. So I'm going to lay this on the back so I can see it better. And I've just punched holes in the corners so that I can mark it. What is that bit doing? Oh, I missed a bit here. Hold on. So I've got a little bit of extra interfacing I'm just going to snip off. Right. So I've marked my two holes. And so now I just want to cut out that corner diagonally through the dot. And then we're going to fold that down. I'm marking it on the back because it's easier to see. And if you weren't using an erasable texture, definitely mark it on the back. So I'm just going to snip that out. Now the idea is that you put webbing down and it's going to hold it down in place. But I am just going to shoot it with so much steam it will stay where it's told. That's the idea. So I'm going to finger crease that. down, and then I'm just going to come along with my iron and set it all down, and then shoot it with some steam. Let it kind of dry. I know it's a weird sentence, but we'll let the steam kind of dissipate so it's not moist anymore. And voila, it stays. And then I'm going to also shoot it from the front because I really want that to stay. So that's what the fusible web would do. I just don't have any, nor can I really drive an hour to buy some. Alright, so that is going to be just as effective. Lots of steam. That is a very good steam shooter. So we're going to do the same for this one. So again, we're going to fold it down and then crease it, and then fold this one out sideways and crease that, and then the other side as well. And then we're going to come along, and it helps that my interfacing is quite stiff, because I think that's helping, because I'm shooting the steam with the stiff interfacing, it's helping it really sit. I don't know if you saw that, but it actually made the iron jump a little bit. I love this iron. Alright, now I'm going to also iron from the front and shoot some steam from there. So I am confident that that will now stay. So now we can go back to the sewing machine. I am back at my machine. I have also ironed the lining pieces. I forgot to do that over there. I walked over and went, but you saw how I did it for the outside, so I just did the exact same thing for the linings. And so now we need our zippers. So I'm going to put my zipper pulls on. I just need to singe the edge of my zipper to make sure that it doesn't fray while I'm trying to work with it. Mainly while I'm trying to put the zipper pull on, because it'll do that. So I'm going to split the zip. And then I'm going to see if I can do it in front of you. Otherwise, I'm going to grab my zipper jig, because I can do it without it, but it's definitely quicker with my zipper jig. There we go. I'm going to put the other one on now as well so I don't forget, because I have been known to forget. And I went with the purple zip just because, I don't know why really, I like it. If I had a magenta zip, like a fuchsia-y, half pink, half purple colour, I definitely would have gone with that, because it would have gone with the background really well. But I don't. So purple works. I also did consider doing the black zip with the gunmetal grey teeth. I could still do that on top yet. Who knows? Who knows what I'll end up deciding. Alright, so now that we've got all that, I'm going to grab my skinny double-sided tape. And I'm going to put a line along the back, so along this part of the lining piece, so that I can stick the zipper on. This is a, I want to say 6mm double-sided tape. I got this from Spotlight, for anybody that's in Australia and watching. Now, I also want to think about which way I want my zipper pulls to go. So I want this to come down. So I'm going to stick that there. Oh wait, but on the back. Alright, so from the back, look at it this way. I want the center of the zip to come down this way. So I'm going to stick it there, because this is the lining. If that at all confused you, start with your outside piece. So that's what the back now looks like. So I've stuck that on. Now I'm going to do the same. Hold on, I've got an alarm going off on my phone. I'm going to do the same to the front one. So I want to make sure I'm grabbing the right front piece for this particular zipper. what am I doing? This one. I was right the first time. Right, so this is where I want this. So the idea is that we're going to have that and then the lining with no raw edges around where the zip's going to go. So again, I'm going to put some double-sided tape just along this like flat part here to hold the zipper in place. And I mean, if you wanted to, you could probably do all of these at the same time, so then you can put this double-sided tape down. That would make sense. I'm sticking everything where it needs to go now, then I can pop that down. There we go. So that's my double-sided tape done. I can pop that aside. Okay. So this one is for this one. So I'm going to pull off the backing of the double-sided tape, like so. I'm going to flip that up, so put the zipper pull up so that it's out of the way. And then I'm going to line up pretty much everything. So I'm lining up the lining piece with the outer piece and then sticking that down. And then I'm also lining up all of these curves so that now it's all lined up. And yes, I just said lined up a lot. Bear with me on that. Okay, so I'm going to go back down to a 2.5 stitch length, and I'm just going to stitch down, across and up to set that zipper in. Now I'm going to back stitch a couple of stitches at the start, and if you just do a few, you won't see the back stitch when we attach the next piece. Needle down, pivot, and then when I get to the zipper, I'm going to zip it back to where I've already been so that it's not in the way. And then I'm going to pivot, stitch up, and make sure that I backstitch. And so from the back, it should have, you can't really see because it's purple on purple, but you need to make sure that you've also stitched the back. So that's why we're using the double-sided tape, because it's helping our cause. So that's one done. Now we're going to do the same thing to the next piece. So I'm going to do it the opposite way. I'm going to put the front on first, just in case it confused anybody doing it backwards. So we're going to have the zip, and I want the zip to come and meet down here. So I'm going to put the zipper pull that way and then flip that up so it's out of the way like that. And then just place that over the zipper. Like so. So I'm making sure that these bits are lined up with the zipper at the top as well. And then I'm going to take my back piece and line everything up. Doesn't matter if you do front to back or back to front, in my opinion. As long as everything's lining up, you are all good to go. So again, I'm making sure that that edge there is matching up, and then all the way along the zipper, and then the other end is also lining up, and we're just squishing that down like that. And so now we can stitch it. So I'm going to do the same thing again, same stitch length. So we're going to do a couple of stitches and back stitch. With back stitching, you don't need to do like, you know, an inch worth. You just need 2 or 3 to lock those stitches in. So now that I'm getting to the zipper, I'm going to zip it down out of the way. One stitch past and then pivot, and then up the top and back stitch. And then trim the tails. Because what's one of my videos without telling me to trim your tails? Alright. How cool is that? So your zip's in, your back's looking lovely. We've got 2 of those, so now we don't have to worry about those. So now we are on to the next bit. Now I'm trying to do the pattern in order. So I've got the pattern here, just to make sure. Alright, so we are going to stitch the darts. So on my pattern, what I'm actually going to go and do is punch. Let me make sure there's no sizes on here. Good. I'm just going to punch the corner with my hole punch so that I can mark it easily. So my hole punch is a cam press, which is a game changer for anyone that is thinking about getting one. Do it. It is worth it. So I'm just going to punch those holes like that. And basically it's just big enough to get my pen in. Alright, so we are now going to mark our darts. So we can just line this up right along the edge, draw that line, and then I'm just going to shift it like the tiniest bit so that I can draw the other two bits like that. So now I've got like a triangle marked on my pattern. So I'm going to do that to all the sides. I'm not sure why I'm standing up. I just felt like it. And before you will ask, yes, I made them shorts. And yes, we're going to do a video on making these shorts because I want more pairs for summer. They are super comfy and I love them. Okay, so again, line it up. Draw your circles first if you like. And it's symmetrical at the bottom. So you'll notice that it doesn't matter which way I'm twisting this because the darts are the same. And this part of it, the bottom half is symmetrical. It's the top part that's not. So I can manipulate that and turn it to wherever I need it so that I can see the marks I need to draw. Alright, so we'll do this piece first. Now, if you're a beginner and you're a little bit concerned, what you can actually do is take a ruler and rule these lines. So I'm going to show you how to do it this way. So you can actually rule the line on there so that you can see what's going on. And then, if you take some pins, it's just the way I learned how to do darts. I don't do it like this anymore, but I did learn this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a pin in one side at the hole and then out the other. So I'm going to put several pins down. I don't remember who taught me this. It's a cool idea though, right? So you want to try and get them so that the pins are going to be straight. So I'm going to put 3 pins in this. And then what you want to do is pinch it so that the fabric goes together because the pin is lined up. And then you can just stab the pin back through and it's, whoops, that one come out. That was not ideal. Right, and so then you can just squish the fabric together and bend it down. And so now when I sew along there, both the sides are lined up. So let's do that. And you can sew with your pins. I know lots of people are scared to sew over pins, so long as they are opposite to the way we're sewing. So they need to be on like a 45-degree angle. And then I'm just going to back stitch at both ends. See? And that is one dart. So that's the way you can do it with pins if you're worried about lining it up. Otherwise, you can just match the dots up here and then pinch it so that the fold goes up to the dot and then just sew your line. So you want to just roll this till the dot's on the edge and you can see like half the dot and then sew up and back stitch. So that's the quicker way to do darts. But if you're not confident enough to do that way, do it the other way first. I should also have said we're putting the right sides together because we don't want to see the darts. So we're stitching them into the back. Pull it out. I probably should have chain stitched these with the other one, because now I've got to do the same thing again. Because chain stitching just saves you so much thread and so many trimming of everything. Alright, so that's now got its darts. So that will now sit together. See? Obviously that's the wrong way. It's going to sit that way, but the principle's the same. So they're sitting and like within each other. And what I've done is I've actually sat these darts in opposite directions so that it's smoother and flatter there. So there we go. That's one. Let's do the other one. I'll do the second one a little bit quicker because I've just explained it on the first one. And I should probably take the lid off if I expect the pen to actually do anything. 1 and 2. I love darts. I actually started learning sewing clothing before bags. I love darts. They make everything look so pretty. We'll be doing lots of darts, I imagine. The Christmas dress you guys have all picked that I'm doing is going to have some darts. That I'm hoping to do next week. The Christmas dress. Mainly just because the fabric is annoying me on the table not being done. So I'm going to do all the Christmas outfits probably next week. So next week is going to be a lot of clothing. I will still do some bags. But I want to do, it's 2 giant pieces of fabric. And I would like them off my cutting table. So I'm going to do mine and my child's and my husband's. I'm thinking shorts for hubby and a cute shirt for my child. Although it would also be cute if they matched, so I don't know. Such a hard decision. Alright. I'm trying to chain stitch the one piece, so it gets a little bit kind of convoluted. But I'm working on it. If I snip this one off, that'll allow this to move around. So you can just snip one, do one. I know it looks a little bit kind of messy, but I'm just doing the darts like I did on the first one without separating the fabric. So I'm chain stitching, but on the same piece. And it gets a little bit kind of twisty, is all. Okay. So that is now all of those done. And then again, we want this to sit in the opposite direction in there. So I'm going to push the big ones to the inside and then the lining to the outside. Like that. There we go. All right. What would you like us to do next? Take an exterior bottom lining. So I need this one and this one. So take one of these. Wait, what? Let me read it. Take an exterior lining bottom right side up and place behind a completed exterior zipper bottom, matching all edges. Be sure to nest the darts. Did that. Okay, so I need the other piece of this. Hold on, let me go get my pieces. This one too has darts. I'm like, that makes more sense. So, I'm going to draw the darts on this one. So again, I've punched the hole on this piece. So I'm going to line that up. like so. And then I'm going to do the other lining piece while I'm here. Whoops, I'm dropping everything on the floor. You know what, it's even along the bottom, so I can just leave it this way. There. And there. Okay. More dots. Alright, so I'm going to chain stitch these lot because I've got 2 of them. So I'm going to stitch to there and then grab the next one. So again, I'm folding it so those dots match and then squishing it so it's flat. Back stitch. I'm going to trim the tails off so they don't annoy me and then do the other side. Like that. And then this one. And that theoretically is all 4. Yes, it is. Awesome. Okay. So now we're going to take this and line it up along the edge. Because now it fits because we've done the darts. Alright, so I'm just going to base this right along that raw edge. So I'm just going to do like a 1/8 of an inch. I am still going to back stitch because I don't want it to move. We're lining up everything. And so by basting all of this together, we can now treat it as one piece, which is going to be easier in a minute when we attach the next bit. And so then we're going to do the same to the other side. And this is why we work both sides at the same time. So we're making sure that the right sides are together. And then we're going to go across the top. That one. And then shift. And then backstitch. So now they are both basted together. So I just wanted to make sure that those stitches are within the seam allowance. And so now I'm pretty sure we're going to attach the top bit. We are. Okay. This one's for this one. So I'm going to attach the long edge first. So I'm just going to line it up. Now, if you want to, definitely use some clips. I'll use clips because I'm teaching and it's bad habit for me to just zoom ahead. So we're going to clip that all the way to there. You can add another one if you want to there. So also what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the zip's at this end so I get as much stitching before I have to switch. So then I'm going to just sew it on. And then when I get close to that zipper pull, so I'm close now, I'm going to zip it up out of the way. And that way it won't distort any of my stitches. And then we just take this side now and bend it up. So while I've got my needle down, I can just stay here. And then we're going to continue stitching up the edge. Like so. Ta-da! So I'm going to stitch both before I top stitch because I've got to change my stitch length. So again, I'm going to pin it. This one I might actually start on the short edge because I like to work with the zipper facing up. And this is the best way to do that. So I'm just going to put one clip there to hold it in place. And then down we go, back stitch. We're going to stitch down. I'm going to back stitch that, needle down, and then we're going to pull this around. Now before I stitch it, I can come along and just clip it in place because it sits where you want it to. Right, so you can add some clips like that. And so now it's going to sit where I want, and now I can just continue on. So I'm going to back stitch there as well. Okay, so I'm getting close to that zipper pull, so now I'm going to zip it down out of the way so that I can finish this up. And then back stitch. Lots and lots of back stitching, people. And then trim my tail. Put it in the bin. Ah, I love it. Okay, so now I'm going to crank my stitch length back up to 4, because 4 is the stitch length I'm doing today. And I'm just going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch along the vinyl part. So, 2 stitches forward, 2 stitches back. And when I get to this corner, I really want to line it up so it's going to be like a nice point and turn. And then we're going to come back up this side. Get to the end and back stitch, and then you can grab your next one, and we're going to chain stitch it. See, look, I didn't trim my tail. Annoying me already. Alright, so you want to make sure that this bit's folded up, and we're folding this on top of it because it's going to stitch it. The top stitching serves as both decorative and to help hold that bit down to make it sit flatter. So I would highly recommend doing the top stitching on this to make it look that much cooler because it'll make it flatter. And then back stitch at the end. I love it. How cute's that? So you could actually do, and I'm seriously considering it, doing a second line of top stitching. That one would purely be decorative, but I think it would be fun. So I'm going to do it. It's good to practice top stitching. So I'm going to do it 1/8 of an inch. It's the little details that make things extraordinary. And I move that zipper down. So I'm just going nice and slow to make sure that this is perfectly lined up. But how fun's that? You go nice and slow when you're trying to match another stitch. There's no rush. Do a couple of back stitches. And so currently I'm not watching the needle, I'm not watching anything other than the other stitches going directly through the right half of my foot. So I'm lining the stitches up with the foot and I'm not worrying about anything else. I'm not looking at anything but the stitches because they're what I want to match. And then one more there. So I'm placing this one and then heading up in the other direction. So there was no need for that. That is purely decorative, but I think it looks cool. So I did it. Okay, next bit is strap connectors. So we should have one fun piece like this. Now, because this is my leatherette, I don't necessarily trust it to hold the bag. That's nothing against my leatherette. My leatherette is awesome. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some webbing and I'm going to stick some webbing in the center of it just to give it that added extra strength, I guess. I don't need it breaking on me. Like the leatherette's strong. Like I have made a whole bag out of it and it's pretty awesome. But it's better to be safe than sorry. Because this point will be holding the whole weight of whatever people put in the bag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down a piece of double-sided tape like I normally would. And then I'm going to stick down the webbing in the center, like so. And then I'm going to stick another piece of double-sided tape. So I'm making a webbing sandwich, basically. Right? So that's already going to be stronger. This stuff's awesome. I did this as the handles on the Tiger King Zip and Go. I just bought that on eBay, so it was just like cheap webbing. You can just buy like strips of webbing from Spotlight. Vardman Thread sells webbing, like you can get it everywhere. And then I'm just going to fold both sides into the center. So I've now made a webbing sandwich. And that is going to be insanely stronger than anything else I could have done. Unless I just use webbing, I guess. So while I'm still on my decorative stitch length, I actually want to stitch 2 stitches down the center because that's going to hold everything into place. And again, I like the decorative look. Obviously, I'm going with that today. Pivot and go down the other side. Look at that. Love it. Trim off your tails, and then we're going to fold it in half and cut it in half. And so now we have 2 connector straps. And you can see the green pop through the center. But they are now definitely stronger. So we're going to need these bad boys, I believe. Yes. I'm trying to do it in the order of the pattern. This is my new thing. So that if you are following the instructions, you can then see what I'm doing, as opposed to me just forging off on my own. Live videos, however, will not be like that. They'll be whatever I feel like doing. Alright, so I've got 2 of these. So what we want to do is we want to take our ruler and we're going to rule with a Chaco pen because this is black. Now, if you didn't watch my prepping video of this, this is just a black fabric because I don't want to be able to see anything through the black vinyl. So I didn't want to use the vinyl for this because it would be too hard to bend. So as you can see, you can barely see that. If I hold that there, you can't see it. So that's why I've chosen just a scrap of black fabric. So I'm going to take my ruler and kind of roughly in the center, I'm going to draw a rectangle. So I want it to be big enough so that I can thread my strap connectors through there. The beauty of Chaco pens is you just blow off the excess, but I can still see, oh, you probably can't. I can still see that line. Ah, shoulder. I have to remember my shoulder doesn't bend that way today. Please don't think that I'm sitting here in pain. It only hurts when I put it in weird angles, when I forget. All right. So now, on the end where the V is, or the corner, or whatever, we are going to place this here, over this side. So I want to make sure that they're going to be even. So I'm going to place them... Where do we want them? That's a very good point. I just want them centered. So I'm going to just put it there. And then there. So that's where I'm going to place it. I'm not telling you those measurements. You will need to get the pattern for those. For the most part, I don't give out measurements. It's not cool. Alright, so now I'm just going to stitch the box. I've gone back to a joining stitch length, by the way, so we want this to be shorter. Needle down, pivot again. Trim that off and that off. And the back ones. And then I'm going to take some scissors and snip the center of that box. And then I'm going to do the triangling out of the corners. So there's probably going to be more triangle than straight on these ones, and that's okay. Now, I actually probably didn't really need to do them this way because it's vinyl, but if you've done your top section in fabric, definitely do it this way. Because it's vinyl, I could have just cut the hole to slot this in because the vinyl doesn't fray. But if you did fabric at the top, which is totally acceptable and would still look very cool. If I had like some Jack Skellington and mini heads, that would look really cool at the top, but I don't have any. And I really wanted to make this bag, so black and sparkly it is. So I'm just pulling this through that hole so that all of those raw edges are now on the back side. Now, if you've done this in fabric, you can go and press it. Because I've done mine in vinyl, that is not an option for me. I'm actually also, because it's being a little bit stubborn, I'm going to take my vinyl part and trim it down because it's being stubborn. And I'm just not in the mood for it. So I just cut it off. I'm not cutting too close to the stitches, but I'm cutting like half of the excess off on the long edges because they were being stubborn. So like that. And so now we're going to take this and put it into the hole. You don't want to have to put all of the, you don't put like half of it in. We're just going to put like, I guess, just past a third. There we go. I'm just pulling this side bit through. It's been a bit stubborn. Not sure why. I think it's the vinyl. So what I'm going to do, because it wants to fight me, nothing beats my pliers. So I'm just going to do one side at a time. I'm going to hold it, and then I'm going to squish it. So it's going to stay where I tell it to. Ha! That worked awesome. So these pliers have no teeth on the inside. So they're leatherwork pliers, so you can squish leather without marking it. Vinyl's close enough. They do the same thing on vinyl as leather. And I got mine on eBay because a lot of people ask me. I think in America you can get them on Amazon. So type in leather pliers or leather tool pliers or leatherwork pliers. And they're flat on the inside. And you can get them skinnier, this size, or like a really long one. I got this size because it's going to do enough at a time. I think the big ones would be too big and you'd have to put too much pressure and hurt your hands. And the little ones just look like they were going to take too long to do anything. So that's why I didn't pick those ones. And I think I only paid like, I definitely paid less than $20 for them. I think they were around $12. But I've had them for a while, so they may have gone up in price. I'm not sure. So don't hold me to a price, but you can definitely buy them on eBay. And I think they come from China, from memory. Alright, so this is now in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch. Oh my god, get in there. Could also be the type of fabric I'm using. Those little squares were actually gabardine, which is like a suiting fabric. So it's not, if I had to use cotton, it would be performing and behaving much better. All right, so I've got a little bit sticking out. So I've got enough that I can put a rivet in. And then I've got a whole bunch of excess at the top. And now I'm just going to stitch along the top edge of the hole. So I'm going to stitch this down, but along the top edge of the hole, so that we're not going to see into the hole. If that makes sense. I think it does. And then trim off all your tails. And then you can grab one of your square rings or D-rings if you're doing it that way. You could use D-rings. And then push that back through the hole like that. And then you can either stitch across here or put a rivet or do both. I'm going to do both. I think it's going to look cool. If you're on a domestic though and you're worried about sewing through that much, you can just put like 1 or 2 rivets. You could even do 2 rivets down long ways like that. That would look fun too. I'm going to do all of the above because, I don't know, I'm feeling excessive. And I'm all about the accents on this bag. I want it to, you know, pop and sparkle and stuff. So, again, I'm trimming off my tails. Like that. So now I've got one connector. So now I want the other connector. So this is the way the bag's going to be. And I'm doing this for visual people. So I want the other connector on the opposite side. So we're now going to come over this side and do one here. So the strap will go from there over to here. If you were to put it on the same side, your bag is just going to sit at an angle like this, and that's not what you want. So on this one, I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to measure the same thing I did before. So I'm going to put it in the same spot, and I'm going to do it behind my machine so that you can't see what my measurements are. So it's going to sit right there. I'm still on my joining stitch length. Needle down and pivot. Move my scissors out of the way. And then trim off my tails. Oh, I can see my postie. Hold on. Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that. So, now I'm going to chop in the center. And then triangle out the corners. And then do it again at the other end. So you want to try and get as close as you can to those stitches without actually cutting the stitches. Cutting the stitches is bad. And then, so learning from my previous side and the fact that it doesn't want to behave, I'm going to take my pliers and do one side at a time. So I'm just going to squish along there, and then I'll push the next side in and squish that, and then work my way around, because the other way was just not working for me. So if I just do it strategically all the way around, this should work much better. So then again, push that through. Like so. And then tuck the top under and do the same again. All right. So now I'm going to put the join side up and push it through the hole like this. sure I've got enough through, and then I'm going to stitch just above the hole and stitch this into place and back stitch like that, and then trim off the tails. Oh. Thread this on and then push this through the hole. See that tail? Get that tail. I can see it. It's annoying me. There we go. Right, and then just push this down into there. And then we're just going to stitch along the bottom. And then I'm going to add some rivets for decorative purposes and for stability as well. And some of you might be sitting there going, is this not strong enough? And the answer is yes, it is. I just didn't want, this has got like all of this, and I'm going to put a rivet here. So it's the whole, this section going to hold the weight as opposed to just this little bit. I have seen a lot of people have like cork and lower grade vinyls deteriorate just at the ring because of the movement. So that's why I've added that there, but I didn't put interfacing onto here. So I'm sure some of you were going to ask that question. So while I've thought of it, I'm just pre-answering it for you. All right, so I'm going to get my hole punch. Oh, I shouldn't have lifted it with that arm. That was silly. And I'm just going to punch a hole in the center. Now, it's easy for me to know where the center is because of my two lines are in the center. But if you can't do that, then you can grab a ruler and just measure and put like a mark with the chakra pen in the center. So I'm going to put it about there. And do the same to this one. Now, you don't have to do this if you don't have rivets and you're super new to bag making. You can skip the rivets. But I think they're going to be pretty. I like a little bit of hardware, what can I say? Okay, so I'm going to grab two. No, don't lift it with that arm. See, I learnt that time. So I'm going to push the post through and then put this on the back. Now these are double capped rivets, so that they've got the smooth side on both. If you actually accidentally bought single capped rivets, usually it's the post that hasn't got the nice edge. So you can actually push it up from the back. That is also acceptable. It doesn't really matter which way. And then we're going to squish that one down. So that's just like another nice little detail that I wanted to add to the bag. A lot of these things are options. So like your second line of stitching's optional. Your rivet's optional. You could do a second rivet. If you had like rhinestone rivets, you could put them in. They'd look great. I'm out, so I need to actually buy more rhinestone rivets. I should get onto that. Alrighty, so we're now going to take one of our lining pieces. Now I've only cut the zipper pocket. So we're doing a zipper pocket. So I'm going to fold this in half, because this is the way I do my zipper pockets. I know lots of people have a whole bunch of different ways where they like sew the zipper to here, then cut it and then put the accent and stuff on. I wouldn't say I'm super set in my ways, but I can definitely do it this way almost asleep because I've done it so often, and this is just the way I like to do it. This is not the only way to do it. The Trixis design way is also fine. I know a lot of people prefer her method, but that's the beauty of sewing. You like what you like. You can do it however you want. There's no one way to make a bag. All right, so I'm gonna just kind of, because I made sure in my cutting video that these are all straight, what I can do is I can line this up with the dots, right? So I can take my ruler and I can just make sure that that line is lined up with the fabric. And then that way you know it's straight. So I'm going to start in the corner, stitch a few, back stitch a few, needle down into the corner and then pivot. And I'm fully aware that you guys are probably sick of me saying that, so sorry, but it's the step. You got to pivot. And then back stitch when you get back to the start. So you only need a couple of back stitches. Nothing excessive. You don't have to go halfway back again. And then we're going to do the same thing we did for those outside bits. And then fold this in half. Make a snip. Now, if your hand can't snip that many layers, if you've got hand conditions, what you can do is just push down on the end of the scissors. And that gives it like the extra force it needs, I guess. I'm just going to tidy up my mess I've got going off camera here. So then I can stick my scissors in and then snip across. Now, if you've got a rotary cutter and a ruler, you could also just cut the center with the rotary cutter and then triangle out the corners with some scissors. Whatever makes you happy. Now, I'm going to iron this open. So I'm going to have to just go off camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to push this all through the hole like we did before. And then I'm just going to go and shoot it with some steam to make it really flat. And the reason I want to use that instead of just finger pressing is because I've put the fusible interfacing on the back of the pocket piece. That is now too thick for me to get a nice crisp finger line. So I'm going to iron it. So give me a minute. So that is now pressed. I've steam pressed it. It's like super flush. Good to go. So now I'm going to take some more zip and I'm going to make it the width of my pocket. And then I'm using some Smooth Criminal zipper pulls for this. So the pocket's got the fun accent ones, and then I'm just going to put the Smooth Criminals on the other two pockets because I really want those front sections to pop. So I'm just going to use my zipper jig. I used to do it in videos, but the spot where I had it used to like try and stab me in the head. So I have since had to move it over this side. I don't know what's with me and zippers lately, but I really suck at them. I'm just going to melt this because it's already misbehaving. Alright, so one side on, other side on. Actually, you know what would be really cute? The love heart zippers. Now that I think about that. So they got little love hearts in the end. So that's very Jack and Sally. So I think I want to do that instead. Not that these zippers behave any better than the other ones. But I just thought of them then and I'm like, ooh, that could be fun. I definitely design as I'm going. All my stuff's not set in stone when I sit down for a video. Unless it's a custom order and they've picked everything. Obviously that's set in stone. That's what they want. Okay. Zip it. So I'm going to zip it back up and then I'm going to come and put the zipper back on the end again. Like this. Hopefully. Maybe. Maybe not. Nope. Yes. No. No. Oh. Some days are just not good days for zippers, by the way. Some days I just outright suck at them. If this doesn't work this time, I'm going to turn the camera off and do it off camera. Because this is excessive. There we go. Alright. Let's try that again, shall we? Okay. So, I'm just going to take... Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take my accent panel, because I've got an accent panel. And I'm going to go up to a size 4 stitch length. And I flip this over and take my skinny double-sided tape. You could also get your thicker one on there. It will fit. I don't have to concentrate as much with this one. I know that sounds lazy of me, but it's true. So the other one will fit like within a couple of millimeters. Whereas this one, I can just kind of whack it on. It's totally fine. All right. So now I'm just going to place that over my hole. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't make the hole that size. Okay, so troubleshooting problem 101. The hole that I drew for the zipper is not the same size as the accent. So it's like 5/8 of an inch the wrong size. So we can do two things. We can either continue stitching this a little bit, or I can go and cut another one of these and just make the hole in the center a little bit smaller. So I think that's what I'm gonna go and do. Otherwise I need to do like another 3 stitches each side of the zipper pocket hole, which I suppose I could do. Just push that back through there. No, wait. Yeah, that way. It looks weird because of the ironing. I'm like, that doesn't make sense, but it does. Okay, so let's fix this problem. So I'm going to start a little bit further back. I'm going to go back to a joining stitch length. And I just want to go literally like 3 stitches and then turn. Now we have to do an even amount on both sides, like that. And so then we're going to go to the other side. One more. Line that up, pivot, and then backstitch like that. Okay, so now all I'm going to do is I'm going to unpick these stitches that finish the end there because they are no longer the end. This is going to work. Troubleshooting 101. Because Tori's not paying attention. It's not even that. I think my arm's annoying me a little bit more than I think. I'm just trying to ignore it. Okay, so we're going to unpick those few stitches across there. And so now we just need to extend that triangle out. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And so now when you push it through, I may want to go and re-iron these corners, but look at that. Still works. We're still good. And now when I put this over the top, it fits. So there you go. That's how you fix that problem. I forgot the zipper overlay. I could have just left the zipper overlay off as well, but I didn't want to because I like the decorative extravagance of this bag. I love this bag. All right. And off we go. So I'm going to stitch the outside, and I'm just making sure that my zipper pocket is not in the way of these stitches. And I'm going to run out of zipper thread. I can hear it. So again, I'm just making sure I'm pushing that zipper pocket part out of the way. And then I'm going to lift it up so it's not on this side either. And this is why some people don't like doing the zipper pockets this way, and that's totally understandable. But I think because it's the way that I learnt, it's the way I like to do it. If I had to learn it a different way, I'd possibly like that way more. I don't know. And so now I'm back to the start. I'm going to do 1 stitch forward, 1 stitch back to lock those in. And then we're good. I'm going to trim off those tails so they don't get in my way in a minute. So now we can open the zipper pocket up flat. Ah, that's way better. And so we're going to stick the zipper in. Now again, I like them, when I put my zippers in, I like the zipper pull to be closing on the left. That's my personal preference, so that's how I do them. Now I'm just going to hold this in here, but if you are new to bag making and don't think you could do that, you could just stick some double-sided tape, like the skinny one, along the zipper tape and then stick it in place like we did with the outside pockets. But I'm feeling pretty confident. Oh, and I've got enough zipper. I've got enough thread to do at least around here. So that's fine. I just like to keep an eye on my thread because I don't like to run out. Now I'm actually going to do something that other people do just for funsies. See how well it works. So I'm actually going to start like at the top here. Instead of the edge where I always start, we're going to start like in the middle at the top. And I'm not going to backstitch. So because we're going all the way around, the idea is that by starting here, why is that not stitching? Come on. The idea is that by starting there, you're not going to have any, like you're going to have a minimal join and you're not going to notice it as much as when you shove it in the corner. So that's the idea. So I'd like to try that today. All right. Sit this under. We're going to go again. So I'm going to try and go through those same holes I just made. Okay, now we're stitching. Now we're good. Pivot, go down, needle down. Always pivot with your needle down or it's not going to work out the way you hope. Okay, so now I'm going to take the zipper pull and zip it open. Needle down, twist. And I'm going to chop this tail off so that it doesn't get in my way and get tangled up as I stitch down this bit. And then I'm going to go through 2 holes and then back one and then finish there. So, as far as inconspicuous stitches, that's pretty good. You don't really see the join. I like that. We might do that from now on. Alright, so fold your pocket down and then we're going to stitch the sides shut. We're going to leave the bottom open and we should leave enough of a tail so that that doesn't happen. You're actually meant to hold the threads on an industrial machine when you start, apparently. I get told this by my mechanic, and I obviously don't do it. So you're meant to hold them and then stitch, but I don't know. Now I can hear a bird's nest. Come on. It's not my day. Maybe she's due for a service, although I don't think so. I think we're all right. It's just having a day. All right, so that's pretty locked in there. So I'm just going to stitch over it, or like right next to it. then trim off all the tails. Luckily we won't see that bit. If that was top stitching, I would have to tediously unpull all that. But we're lucky it's not, so we're fine. Trim the tails. And so that is now our zipper pocket. Now we're going to leave it open because that's our final kind of stitch there. And so now we're going to do, I'm not doing the slip pocket in this one, but you could definitely put a slip pocket. You could put another zipper pocket. You could do a lot of fun stuff there. But I'm going to first grab this and cut some zipper. Oh. Now I'm cutting it a little bit longer than I need it because I can always cut it down. I'm going to wrap this up neatly. If I put things away as I go, it's easy to get to later. So I wrap mine up like that and then just put some rubber bands around it loosely and chuck it in a box. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to split the zip and we're going to take a lighter, singe that edge because I'm not dealing with that today. I'm going to singe both ends. Alright, and so then what we're going to do is we're going to pull this down, so this corner to come and meet the side to make a right angle, like that. So you just want to kind of line it up. This is definitely potentially tricky if you're new to it, but it's worth it, so stick at it. Right, so we're going to fold that down at a 90-degree angle and then stick it under the machine to stitch it down. Now don't get your fingers, please don't get your fingers. Again, this is why I get fingernails. They're like mini stilettos that are easy to use. So I'm going to fold the other side down and I want it to match. So you just want to fiddle with it until it's even. The whole point is to be even. That's why I haven't separated the zip yet. I don't separate the zip until I know it's even. Alright, there we go. Happy days. So I've tacked that down. So it's now going to stay at the right angle. And so now we need to measure the zip down. Let me just scroll down so I know what size it needs to be. Again, I won't be telling you. So I would just cut like a little bit too much. And the reason I cut more rather than less is because when I fold that down, I never do it exactly the same every time. Like it's just not a thing that I'm capable of doing. Okay, so I'm going to take my zipper tab. And the idea is that you fold it in half. And then you fold both sides to that center. Now you could definitely do this out of vinyl if you wanted to. But I was trying to have a Sally head on there, which I kind of do. If I put this way up. And then I'm just going to slot that on the end and stitch that down. So that's going to seal off the end. And I'm going to have Sally's face at the end, which is really cute and fun. And I like that. Back stitch, stitch along, back stitch, pull it out, and I just ran out of bobbin thread. That was perfect timing. Okay, so now I've got Sally's head right on the end. Now this excess little bit here I can just trim off. That's fine. I actually did my back stitching on the zipper and not on the end. So that is now the zip. Oh my god, do you know what I just forgot to do? Because I can. Zipper on the end before you seal it. Where's my mind today? I was too excited about the Sally head. That's what my problem is. It's fine. So I'm just going to unpick all of that and then put my zipper pull on. So you'll notice I don't use a quick unpick. I don't like them. Not my thing. All right, so we're going to separate the zip, put the zipper full on, and then we're going to seal the end. Okay, there we go. Now pull off all those threads. Now I need to do my machine. I need to do another bobbin. So I'm going to just hit pause while I do that. And I'm also going to put some oil on my bobbin, because you should always oil your bobbin every time you wind oil your bobbin case every time you wind a new bobbin. Alright, I'll be back. Machine is oiled, bobbin is full, I have had a snack, and I have gone and got this pattern piece and again punched the holes here. So, with the zipper pull on, I just need to pull out the last of these little threads. Should have done that off camera, but whatever. Okay, so now we're going to double fold this in and then slip it onto the end. Now I can see that this is fraying a little bit, so I'm just going to come back in with the lighter and give it another hit. And then we're going to have Sally's face on the end of the zip. And yes, that was a deliberate move. If you watch the prepping video, you see that. And it's not like I wasted fabric doing it. Alright. Zipper end on, zipper on. Very important to put the zipper on. Okay. So, with our lining pieces, we are going to put darts in the corner, like we did for all the other pieces. Because if you don't, it's not going to fit. Whoops. Ah, it's slipping. Don't slip. Okay. I'm going to grab the other one. We're doing both at the same time so that we can chain stitch, because chain stitching is good for your pocket. If you sew as much as I do and you chain stitch instead of individually stitching, you could easily save yourself the equivalent, I reckon, of a whole spool of thread in a year. I genuinely believe that. That's why I do it. Alright, so stitch length is at 2.5, which for me is my standard length. Whatever your joining stitch length is, basically. We want joining stitches, not decorative stitch length. And we're going to back stitch at both ends, and then we're going to chain stitch. So we're going to grab the other one and fold it. And stitch it. And then chop off the first one. And then we're going to trim those tails now so that they don't annoy me later. Because we all know that they'll annoy me later. And then fold it, back stitch, up to the dot, back stitch, trim, and then the other one. So join those dots. Now if you struggle with the dots, what you could actually do is do little clips. As long as they're within the seam allowance, you could definitely clip them, but you can't clip the top dot. That is not ideal. You have to draw the top one, but if you're struggling to match up these, like this end here, you could actually just clip it and then join the clipped parts together. Okie dokie. Let's make a bag. So I'm going to start with my interior zipper pocket. Now the reason I start with this one each time is because I want my zipper to go in the same direction. So the zipper ends this way, so I want this zipper to end this way, so this is where I'm going to put it. Now, you can either baste it in place or you can use your Wonder Clips. I'm going to use Wonder Clips. And just clip along. So I've got the lining side right side up and I've got my zipper right side up. Because I'm going to make a zipper sandwich. All about the sandwiches today. Don't know if you've noticed. And then I'm just going to grab one of these. Now, it doesn't matter which one, because the zips go in opposite directions on each one. So, doesn't matter which one I grab, because they're both going opposite directions. So, I think I'm going to grab this one, just cause, no real reason. And then I'm just going to add it into the clips that I've already got there. Now, if you wanted to, you could clip all three at the same time. I'm personally no good at that. I suck at it, so I don't do it. That's just my personal thing. If you are good at it, you could clip all three pieces at the same time, but you'd clip from the center out. All right, so now I'm going to stitch that down. So I'm going to start at the end, stitch and back stitch, and you'll notice that the zipper doesn't go all the way to the edge. Now I'm going to move that zipper and just zip it forward so it's out of the way, and then continue sewing along. Sounds lovely now I've oiled it, doesn't it? Spin it around, and then I'm just going to top stitch the outside. So the idea is that I'm going to tuck this seam that way and then bend this over and stitch it down. And what that's going to do is make it nice and flat and glorious. So I'm going up to my decorative stitch length, which on this bag has been 4. I switch it up between 4 and 3 3/4. I know it doesn't sound like much, but I can definitely see a difference when I do that. And then we're going to back stitch when we get to the end. Now the reason that we don't stitch the lining in that as well is because when we join it, you'd have like a weird bit here. So we don't do it. Okay. Other lining piece. Ow, ow, shoulder. That was silly. I should have got up. It's amazing how much that hurt. All right, so again, we're going to line up these edges over here because it should center up. And then that one there. And then just clip the center to hold it in place. So we've got lining side up and then this panel right side up. And then we're going to make the zipper sandwich and put the right side down. So if you pretend that the right side is butter in a sandwich, if that helps my analogy. Obviously do the opposite in toasted sandwiches, but this is not a toasted sandwich. It's a bag. So anyway. All right. So now we've got another zipper sandwich. We're going to go back down to our joining stitch length. And back stitch. And then off we go. Now as I get closer to that zipper pull, I'm going to come in, lift up my foot, and zip it out of the way so that it doesn't get stuck in my stitches. And then I'm going to crank it back up to my decorative stitch length and fold it over onto that seam. If you zip the bag up, it might behave a bit better. And then we're going to top stitch. So I'm just creasing it with my finger and making sure that that seam allowance is under where I'm stitching, because what this is doing is it's stitching it so it's flatter. And then trim off the tails and the loop at the other end. All right, so now I'm going to zip that open, but not all the way open because then the zipper pull is going to get in my way and we don't want that. So now we're going to join everything. So we're going to come first up to here. And we're going to start with the darts on the exterior piece. Pardon me. Now this is part of the exterior piece. So if you wanted to, you could baste all of this together. So I might do that, but just along that bottom edge. Like so. So now I can treat this as one piece, which will be a little bit easier. Trim off those tails. We're going to need a joining stitch length in a minute. Right, so now that that's all one piece, I can come along to here and with right sides together, clip it together, matching the lines from the dart. So we want that to match up. That is going to be very noticeable if you don't match it up. So that's why I start there. And I'm going to put one clip on each side of the dart to hold it into place. And we've also got this lining piece, so we're going to whack that into it as well. This is going to be a lot of layers, people. But that's okay, as long as you make it all nice and flat. And then we're just going to add some clips in the middle of all of this to hold all the layers together. Now there are a lot of layers, but I still feel like a domestic machine will handle this fine because it's all cotton. So then I'm going to come to this side here where the accent panel meets the fabric, and I want to line those two up. That's quite important because again, that's going to attract the eye. So I want that lined up, so I'm going to put 2 clips there. And then I'm going to come up to where we go from vinyl to lining piece, and I'm going to match that up. So these parts are all going to be eye-catching, so you want to make sure that they're 100% lined up and schmick. And yes, I just used the word schmick. I'm okay with that sentence. So now with this excess rest of the part here, we can just add some clips to hold it all together. Like that, and then we're going to come and do the same to the other side. So we're going to start with our accent piece and line that up there and add 2 clips, one on each side of where I'm trying to line up, and then the same at the top here. We're going to line that up like that and like that, and then we're going to come and clip in between the 2 points. Now for the most part that's going to sit where you want it to, but while we're stitching it may slip, which is why I'm still adding clips anyway. Alright, so that's the outside exterior pieces done. So now we're going to do the lining. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to attach those darts, and basically I move my fingers until they almost like, you almost feel them like clip into place, like they butt up against each other and won't go any further. And then you can add 2 clips, one on each side of the dart. Same thing again. Line it up, roll it in your fingers until you feel it like hit each other, because it means they're definitely together, and then add some clips. Now I'm going to leave the bottom of the bag open because this is where I'm going to turn the bag through. Because that space is bigger than the pocket panel, and it's also just easier to do it through the bottom of the bag, and then I'll stitch the bottom of the bag up through the zipper pocket and then stitch the zipper pocket shut. So there is method in my madness. So I'm just clipping the sides from the dart upwards. I know it doesn't really look like it's going to shift, but it's just, you know, good to have clips. It won't move for whatever reason. Okay, so I'm going to start here. So probably like 3 stitches before the fold part of the dart, because I want the dart to be lined up. Don't knock my drink. That was about to be a disaster. Okay, so we're going to start here. Couple stitches forward, couple stitches back, and then around we go. Now this is a curve. Oh, my husband's calling. My husband's been out field for the past week, and I thought he was calling because he needs to be picked up. He was just calling to tell me he was back today, but I already knew that. And just subconsciously, I wasn't even thinking, I started stitching instead of stopping because I'm doing a video, because it's just a weird habit that I talk on the phone and sew. But I didn't do all of it, so that's good. I realized what I was doing and stopped. So we're just stitching around and pulling the clips off as we go. You've got to make sure you're doing an even seam allowance. And I'm cleaning up my clips. I should call them pegs because I say the word clip too much. I'm cleaning up my pegs as I go so that I don't have a big mess on my table, because it's easier to sew in a clean workspace. Alright, so we're nearly back to the other side of the dart. So again, 2 stitches pass and then back stitch. Pull that out. Now, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim off some of the excess in these curves, because I want it to curve nicely. I keep forgetting to buy new zigzag scissors or pinking shears every time I go to Spotlight. So obviously I've got some, but they're blunt. Okay, so now I'm going to reach into the bottom of the bag. Ow, don't do that. And I'm going to grab basically a dart and push it in so I can grab hold of it, and then slowly kind of implode the bag on itself. So I want everything to tuck in, so it's going to do a complete roll. And then pull that out, and then I can just put my hand into the bottom and push. So that was super fun and easy to birth. I like that. So I'm just running my fingers along the seam to make sure that it's pushed all the way out. And you'll notice that, you can't really see it, but these are perfectly lined up. That is a perfect X. See? So again, I'm running my fingers along. When I get to this end where the zipper tab is, I'm pushing it out so it sits nice and flat. And there is Sally's head. I can zip this up and zip that one up. And I'm going to give the bottom half of this bag a bit of a press. But we've got all of our seams at the sides lining up beautifully. Even my stitches line up. Look at that. That's why we go slower on top stitching. Okay, so now I'm going to reach my hand into the zipper pocket and grab the bottom opening like this and pull it through. And so now I'm going to stitch up the bottom. Now, if you wanted to, you could definitely birth the bag through the pocket if you wanted to do that. But I definitely think that my way was quicker. And then while I'm here, I'm just going to trim off some of the excess in the curves now that it's completely stitched up. So just take out that excess fabric there. And then you can push the lining back into the bag. And so now we just need to do up our zipper pocket. So I'm going to use my fingers and tuck that under and pinch it. And then just sew across. Now if you put bag tags in your bags, I would definitely put it here. So I'm going to do a couple forward, a couple back. And then just stitch along the bottom. And then push that into the pocket. And make sure you poke the corners all the way out because it'll sit nicer. Zip that up. And then push this also into the bag. And then zip that up. That is a really cute bag. I need to stop wanting to keep everything. It's a real problem that I have. Okay. Attaching the strap. So I'm going to grab 4 rivets. Because again, I'm all about the excessive decorativeness today. So I need both of my cam presses. So this one is the hole punch and the other one is the press. I only bought 2 because I use 2 things like simultaneously all the time. So I'm going to put this up into here and fold it over. Now I'm going to take a tape measure and I'm going to measure how much excess I want over. So what I'm going to do, actually, I'll break this down super simple. Whew, that was silly. All right, so I'm going to measure 1/2 inch up from the edge and put a mark. That's where my first rivet's going to be. Then I'm going to go 3/4 inch up from that and put another mark. I'm going to do the same to both ends because I'm going to put 2 rivets in. So these are where the 2 rivets are going to be. And then, before I punch the hole, I'm going to go up and over to make sure that I can get both of those rivets in. And then I'm going to clip that in place because I want to mimic this exact size on the other end. So then the strap is going to go up and over and then come up into there. And then I just want to measure how much of this I've got up and then copy it at the other side. So this one I've actually done a little bit more by the look of it. All right, so that is now 100% even on both ends. So now that I've done that, I can punch the holes where I've marked them, but through both the layers. So I'm just going to move that because it's in the way. Squish 1 and squish 2. And then I'm going to put the posts, and I'm going to do one side at a time so that nothing shifts and everything's nice and easy. So shove that over there and bring this one over. Now, if you've only got one cam press, maybe do all 4 of your holes and then squish them all. But I want to do one end at a time so that nothing shifts. So squish 1 and squish 2. Then we're going to do the other side. Swap them over. Move that out of the way. And squish 1. And move the bag out of the way again and squish 2. And then again, put the posts through. Now, you don't have to use rivets at all if you didn't want to. You could actually just stitch it on. You could do like the X stitch. You could just put 1 rivet, but I am trying to be extra decorative today for whatever reason. I'm just feeling it. So I'm putting 2 lots. And there you go. So that is the bag with the strap attached. I hope this was helpful. And this is a very real video because I did quite obviously make some mistakes, but I leave them in just, you know, for learning purposes. So until the next video, guys, I am off. All right, bye-bye.